Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. Due to YouTube's changing quote-unquote community standards, I created a channel called Grumpy Old Fart over on Rumble, a free speech alternative to YouTube. You can see all of my stuff over there, including my political and social commentary, as well as my current events videos. The links to my YouTube and Rumble channels, as well as links to let you order my books, are in the description of this video. If you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. I welcome your comments, even if you disagree with me. Now, on with the video. Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I'm doing an advanced Dungeons & Dragons advice video on villains. Advanced Dungeons & Dragons is a game of high adventure. Exploring ruins and robbing evil temples is fun, but eventually your players will want more. And rightly so. As a dungeon master, it is your job to plan the campaign. The campaign, if you're not aware, is a series of adventures all linked together to culminate in one final objective. A big part of your campaign is the adversaries you send to face the player characters. Random encounters and wandering monsters can only take you so far. The plot of your campaign will dictate the types of villains you need to create to send against your heroes. Every story needs a bad guy, and that bad guy has to fit the story. Whenever I'm making a campaign, designing a long-term situation, and I want bad guys, I use three main types of villains, and this is how I list them. Other people have different ideas, and I would suggest looking up different people's ideas. There's a guy, How to Be a Great GM. He does good videos on this as well, so don't just take my word for it. Go with these other people as well. Do as much research as you can on this. Again, I use three main types of villains: lackeys, henchmen, and masterminds. Lackeys are the nameless peon foot soldiers which swell the ranks of your villain's forces. In the James Bond, these are all the James Bond movies. These are all the thugs that run around, the workers at the evil guy's lair or whatever. These are the foot soldiers, essentially. Henchmen are the servitors and bodyguards, the lieutenants, as it were, that the mastermind employs as elite forces to perform specific functions. These are much more capable. Excuse me. Drinking coffee there. These are much more capable. They command a lot of the lackeys there. This would be like, in James Bond, it would be like Oddjob or Jaws, those guys, the assassins, the guys who perform specific functions. Masterminds are the world-class villains that employ the henchmen and the lackeys. They may lead a secret society, or they may just be exceedingly wealthy, or just have resources. These are the Bond villains who employ Oddjob and Jaws, the henchmen. I like using these three types because it tailors the encounters to your players as they rise in level. At low levels, your player characters can slaughter hordes of lackeys with minimal danger to the characters. At first level, there's a lot of danger. But as they go up in level, these lackeys really aren't going to provide a lot of challenge, and rightly so. This allows them to earn experience and become more powerful so as to draw out the campaign until they can face a henchman. During the course of all this, you can drop hints of something larger, but nothing specific, and don't let them get a hold of anything that they can actually investigate. That's the main thing. At least nothing major. When your players reach sixth level or so, throw a henchman at them as well as the company of lackeys. This tells the players that they have garnered the attention of the lackey's boss, and he considers them a threat to some degree. This impresses on them that something larger is afoot and wants to get them to investigate. When your players reach 10th to 12th level, that's when you let slip, through the course of the game, of course, that there's a mastermind controlling the actions of the henchmen and the lackeys. They then must discover the ultimate goal and motive of that mastermind. Now, what I just gave you was an example of how you could do it. And there's tons of different ways to do it. All this being said, the creation of these villains requires thought and planning. Lackeys are disposable bad guys. They need to be plentiful and, 0 to 1 hit die, that kind of thing. Essentially, they're stormtroopers. From Star Wars, they're stormtroopers. Henchmen are powerful foes, slightly more powerful than half of your party of PCs. If you have 6 level player characters, your henchmen should be about 12th to 14th level. The player character should be able to kill them, but not easily. He should be able to escape fairly easily and be as terrifying as possible. These guys are the sledgehammers the mastermind employs to strike fear into the player characters. Think Darth Vader. That's what the henchmen are like, Darth Vader. Masterminds are the planners and spy masters who are striving to implement their master plan. Think Palpatine from Star Wars. Now, motivation is one of the most important aspects of any villain. Lackeys are easy. They're either paid or cowed to serve the mastermind. The mastermind could conscript peasants, hire mercenaries, or acquire the services of orcs or goblins. Regardless, these guys follow orders and rarely deviate except to retreat when the odds are against them. Any grand motivations that they may have are put on the back burner because they're in service as lackeys. Henchmen are employed by the mastermind for a reason. They could be paid, they could owe a debt, they could have religious, social, or familial connection, or whatever. Regardless of the reason, this guy is a true believer. He believes in the cause, whatever that cause is. Now, he may or may not be loyal to the mastermind. He may be plotting to overthrow the mastermind, but is biding his time, waiting for the right moment to sink the knife. They may or may not feel justified in their actions, so that they may not see themselves as villains. He may be acting for the greater good, as it were, but he is loyal to the cause. Now, the cause for him may be money. Good mercenaries, you get what you pay for, kind of thing. You never know. But the variety of henchmen, there's tons of different types of henchmen. You just got to figure out which one works best for your game. Masterminds, again, are the Blofelds, the Dr. Evils, the Palpatines, the Machiavellis. These are the guys who enact the master plan and employ everyone under them. They either have to have powerful magic or items that allow them to do massive damage. They have to fit the bill. Palpatine was not a wimp. They have to be able to, summon demons or other creatures or for whatever reason, however you design this guy, he has to be able to fight the group. Okay? And there's lots of ways that you could do that. For example, I ran a campaign one time where they were fighting an evil temple. The evil cleric ran the temple. He was a high-level cleric. I forget what god it was. But he had 6 or 8 paladins working for him as henchmen. These guys were evil paladins. There was a plethora of fighters and other worshippers that wanted to. They were loyal members of this temple, this church, but it was an evil temple, and the group was trying to overthrow this temple. So you had your lackeys with the fighters and the peasants, the worshippers. You had the evil paladins who were the henchmen. These paladins could command groups of the lackeys. And these paladins, they were real true believers. They weren't being paid. They believed in their god. Okay? And then you had the high cleric. And they had other clerics as well that used as servants. But the high cleric was the one running the show. And he didn't have a hell of a lot of clerics with him. He had a lot of evil paladins, but not a lot of clerics. But the point being, that was how I organized it. And it worked well. That campaign ran for about 4 years. So, there are some things to consider when you're designing villains. tailor your villains to your players. You know your players. Some players are more cerebral than others. Pitting, and this is a bad example, but it's the only one I could think of. Pitting a Machiavelli against a group of Dumb and Dumbers is not going to go well. Your player, unless you're planning a comedic type campaign, it's not going to go well. Your players have to be equal to the task of investigating the mastermind's actions to discover and thwart his plans. If the plan is so far beyond the players that they have problems figuring out that there actually is a plan and a master villain, then you've overplanned. I've done this before, and it requires drastic measures to put the players on track. It's better not to overmatch them at all. You want to challenge them without overmatching them. There is a fine line there. I was running a campaign. As a matter of fact, I ran a campaign for 14 years. They had completed one major part of the campaign, and there was a side thing that they were doing, and this major villain, the mastermind, was using the group to find specific items. These specific items, because he was lying to them, obviously, but they didn't know that. This group was finding these special items for him. He was along with the group, and they trusted him. He kept going off by himself, and they'd go to find him, and he's just fought this major battle, and they'd have to come in and help, and blah, 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 blah. And it went on like this for several game sessions. The group got pissed because this guy wasn't... They felt like he was leading him by the nose, but they felt like they were supposed to follow him. And I kept trying to... You can't come out and say, no, he's the bad guy. You give it... But they weren't getting the hint. And I was dropping lots of hints. Oh my God, lots of hints. So finally, they were angry and decided they wanted to do something else. And I said, okay, fine. We'll do something else, no problem. But there I overplanned, and I overestimated the players. And that was my fault, not theirs. So there is a fine line there. The motivations of your henchmen and masterminds fall into one of 4 categories: power, revenge, wealth, and status. And I watched a video a few months ago. I want to say it was How to Be a Better GM. He does a lot of great stuff. Check him out. And he lists these 4 and 2 others I noted. So keep that in mind. Henchmen, for whatever reason, believe that serving the mastermind will help them achieve their motive or their goal or whatever. Masterminds are the driven non-player characters who envision and hatch plans to gain power, wealth, or status, or to exact revenge. They employ henchmen and lackeys as part of that plan. The plan is the key, because the plan dictates what kind of henchmen you're going to have. Unless your players are extremely mature, I highly recommend that none of your player characters be allowed to identify with or sympathize with the villain. If the heroes join the villains, it will be very detrimental to your campaign. Just saying. Try to keep it as straightforward as possible. Confusion is something you really want to avoid, and that was one of the things that got me in that campaign I just talked about. Players cannot wait to argue with you, and one good argument, valid or not, can end your game. Some of my epic fails over the years. My lackeys attacked my 6 third-level players. What should have been a straightforward battle. The lackeys were distracting the group so that one of them could steal an item from the PC camp. 9 fumbles over 2 combat rounds left the entire group dead. It was a total party kill, and it ended the campaign. Another time, my henchman had the group pretty well defeated until the wizard hit him with a charm spell. one failed savings throw, and he was spilling his guts to every question they asked. He revealed the entire plan. It was... Now, when stuff like that happens, if you can somehow work out a way where he either dies or gets away or whatever, or the charm spell doesn't exactly work right, whatever you do, plan for a charm spell. That's all I'm saying. Because I couldn't think of a way, given the circumstances, I couldn't think of a way out of this for this guy. And he just told him everything. After that, I had to fast track the players on a number of side adventures to get them high enough in level where they could do what they needed to do the campaign. It just didn't end the campaign, but it required some quick thinking on my part. Another time, my mastermind spent over a year in game time embedding himself into the player character group as an NPC asset. He used the group to call off his enemies and collect MacGuffins. This is the time I was telling you about earlier, and then it deteriorated from there. Another time, my mastermind, when the group found out what the main plan was and they started making plans to go after this mastermind, apparently they had collected a number of MacGuffins, and the assassin in the group decided it was better not to go after this mastermind. This is one of the times where he identified with the mastermind. He sympathized with him and wanted to join. The assassin in the group murdered everyone in their sleep. He took all the MacGuffins for himself. He went and joined the mastermind. That was the end of the game. And they never knew, the group never knew, they never had a chance. They never knew he was going to do that. And it surprised me as well. So, yeah, when you plan your villains, make sure there's a clear distinction between the players and the villains. If they start sympathizing with him, yeah, that's going to cause problems. I didn't mean for the video to go so long, but villains require some thought. Don't just, throw a guy in there. If you do, leave a lot of it open so you can come in and fill in the stuff later. You know what I'm saying? At any rate, I hope this finds everybody well. And again, I'm not saying this is how you have to do it. I've been playing this game a long time, over 40 years, and this works for me, and I hope it helps you in your game. If not, find a better way. I'll be glad to read your comments. You folks have a good day. God bless one and all. We elect cookie-cutter politicians every single election cycle. Yes men who maintain the status quo and do just enough to make us believe the system still works. Imagine, if you will, a president who actually tries to fix things. If you like action, political intrigue, and a righteous crusade, check out my political thriller, The Righteous President.